Welcome aboard the news segment. And in our first story, some aggrieved NPP delegates in the Kaikwe South constituency have vowed to vote against their party. The reason is that their names have been expunged from the voters' register despite being qualified to partake in the electoral process which took place yesterday. The delegates claim the MP for the area, Dakwan Newman, and some regional executives colluded to remove their names from the register. According to them, over 400 names have been replaced with persons who are not from the constituency. We'll hear from them shortly, but earlier yesterday, the election was nearly disrupted as confusion rocked the process, leading to fisticuffs between some of the aggrieved supporters and the police. My colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, has more.
So what's happening here is that the delegates have blocked the vehicle conveying the Electoral Commission officials to the venue. They have said that this election will not be conducted, and so even though the police is escorting the Electoral Commission to the venue where the elections will be held, the delegates have blocked the vehicle, asking that this election will not be conducted and that the EC should return to their offices because this election today will not be conducted. Boss, I mean, this is a vehicle. And why are you stopping the vehicle, sir?
We just want the right thing to be done. This is an election. These people came to us that they are going to maintain everyone. And here lies the case. We have the video evidence. And now they've taken our names out. Look at the number of people here. And you expect us to let the election go on. Never. The right thing must be done. The right thing must be done.
But you can't block. The police says that this election,
yes,
the party has given them today to conduct the election.
Today.
So you can't block the EC.
What we know is that we are delegates and we are expected to vote on Saturday. So why are they coming now? What is the agenda?
I see.
In favor of anything. You want peace. You want peace. You cannot say that these vehicles should run through us. You cannot say that these vehicles should run through us. What are you saying?
So the police is here. The police is moving. The police is pushing them away. The police is pushing them away. Paving way. The paving way for the vehicle to run through. So very chaotic situation here. At the Prince of Peace School, where the NPP is holding its delegates constituency election, and that is, you can see the force, you can see the reaction of the police and the delegate pushing them, shoving them, and the vehicle equally moving slowly, gaining access to the entrance. So this is the chaotic situation here at the Prince of Peace School, where the NPP is expected to hold their delegate conference. Some of the delegates are in a fisticuffs with the police right now, paving way for the EC to move. So clearly, this is the situation. This man has held the police leg, and this is the chaotic situation here. The chaotic situation here at the Prince of Peace. Finally, the vehicle has gained access. Finally, the vehicle has gained access, and the vehicle has entered. What it means is that the election will be held, and one man has been arrested, and he has been taken into the police vehicle. So he has been arrested. And asking the police to handcuff him. He's been accused of pelting stones. He's been accused of pelting stones against the police. Another group of people equally have been arrested. So this man also has been arrested by the police, and he's struggling with the police. He doesn't want to move. He's struggling with the police. So he equally has been arrested. And this one also has been arrested. So this is the current situation here at the Kaikwe South constituency. So about 3 people now have been arrested. 3 people have been arrested currently. So this is the situation. They have been kept at the bucket of the police vehicle. So this is the situation. The police is willing and ready to arrest any individual who will misbehave. And that warning came from the ACP, the divisional commander for Kaneshie District. He is the one in charge of this election. Another guy has been arrested. Another one has been arrested, making about 4. So 4 people so far have been arrested for misconduct and obstructing the duties of the Ghana Police Service. 4 people have been arrested so far for distracting the work of the Ghana Police Service. So, wow. And people are pelting stones. Some of the delegates are pelting stones. Some of the delegates are pelting stones. So that is the situation.
Now, amid the chaos, the police arrested 5 persons for obstructing the duties of the men in uniform. ACP Fachikumi has been speaking to JoyNews.
Raising issues of the election coming on Saturday and not today, and that some people's names have been removed from the register. And then they went on to also say that they've taken the matter to court and there is injunction. And what I was trying to tell them is that if they have injunction and they go ahead, the party goes ahead to conduct the election, they have every right to go and cite the party for contempt. If some people's names have been removed from the register as they are alleged, that is also a basis for them to go to court and, channel their grievances. At the end of the day, we are not expecting them to be physical or obstruct anybody who is coming to cast his or her vote. We are here, as I said, to maintain law and order. And therefore, if anybody thinks he is too big, we are here. We'll see who is big, and at the end of the day, who will be able to maintain law and order so far as this election is concerned.
Meanwhile, lawyer Frank Davies has condemned the violence that ensued at the Kaikwe South constituency election and says such notoriety should not be condoned in the NPP. Speaking to my colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson on JoyNews, the member of the NPP's legal team said the disgruntled person should have taken steps earlier to have their names on the register. Lawyer Frank Davies says he was at Kaikwe South as a national representative for the constituency.
It's been splendid, but for just a small pocket of disturbance early on in the morning, those involved have been picked up by the police, so they are in police custody now. But it's been orderly, smooth, a lot of cooperation from the delegates and the aspirants or contestants, and it's been excellent.
And for me, I'm curious to know, what's your interest in this election? Because there's elected. You are counsel for the party.
I don't have any interest. I'm the national rep.
Okay.
For Kaikwe South constituency. I'm compelled to be here. But so I'm here to supervise and monitor and report to the party.
I see. But finally, for me, with the violence that marred the beat of the election from the start, what do you make of it? Unfortunate that the delegate going forward, what are the assurances that this will not recur?
I'm inclined to believe that as we mature in politics, this kind of behavior should not be condoned. I mean, if your name is not in a constituency album, you wait and come and pick it at the election venue, the polling station, the center of the election. Meanwhile, there was a directive that constituency album should be displayed in a constituency office. So if you wanted to be sure that your name was in the register, you should have seen your constituency album. What's that supposed to mean? It's either your name is in the register or it's not. If your name is not there, it's unfortunate. What would anybody gain by treating you unfairly? They should have channeled their grievance early on so that the party will address it. But you don't wait when it's an election time and you come here and say your name is not in the register. Who's going to restore you onto the register? We can't do that. So I only advise my party people that you don't gain any notoriety for people seeing you as rowdy. Now that you have come to misbehave, you are in police custody. Your people are here. So what do you say to yourself?
And finally, for me, it's some of them who their names are not captured on the register are threatening to vote against the party, making it difficult for you to break the egg. What will you respond to them?
These things we care. After a day or two, they'll come back. They'll come back. I mean, you get pain about something, right? But I mean, after a while,
I just empty threat.
Oh, I won't say empty threat. They're just people who want to vent out their frustration. But apart from that, they'll come back. Don't worry.
Let's talk the 1992 Constitution now, and we should be prepared to make the necessary amendments to the Constitution to meet contemporary needs. That is according to President Akufo-Addo, who in a televised address yesterday underscored the need to sustain Ghana's democratic governance system. The nation marks 30 years since the Fourth Republican Constitution was adopted through a referendum. Delivering a message from the Jubilee House, the president called on Ghanaians to resist calls for military dictatorship.
We've had 5 presidents in the history of the Fourth Republic, with peaceful transfers of power from a governing to an opposition party on 3 separate occasions. Even when there was disagreement with the outcome of an election, it was the Supreme Court on 2 occasions, rather than the streets, that validated its result. We are arguably the most stable democracy in West Africa. On this day, the 30th anniversary of the referendum, whose votes ushered in the Fourth Republic, I urge all of us to renew trust in our democracy and bear in mind at all times the oft-cited statement that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. I say so because there are some who, for their own parochial and selfish interests, would want to see a return to the dark days of authoritarian rule, simply because, with no respect for the Ghanaian people, they are either unwilling to subject themselves or their vision to the open scrutiny of the Ghanaian people, or because they know they will be rejected by the Ghanaian people, and thus seek a shortcut to office and power. Let us strengthen our resolve to resist such persons for our common good.
But in our next story, 51 riders of motorcycles and tricycles have been arrested by the Ashanti Regional Police Command. Authorities say the culprits failed to obey traffic regulations and breached the law. Letters of warning have been issued to serve as a deterrent to them and others. There is more in this report put together by Mona Lisa Frimpong.
The Ashanti Regional Police Command has for weeks now seized unregistered motorbikes and tricycles in the region. 51 riders have so far been arrested. Police say the breach of traffic regulations is the cause of the many fatal accidents recorded in the region. DCOP Kwesi Akumia Apraku is Deputy Regional Police Commander.
Majority of the accidents that do happen are man-made. We have realized that people do not observe the traffic lights when they reach the lights, especially the motor riders. That's why we started this type of operation.
Though the culprits have been released, letters have been issued to them serving as warning.
But because this is the first time we are conducting such an exercise, we have thought it wise to warn them. That's why we are going to give them warning letters, so that if any of them commit such an offense again, automatically he will go to the court.
DCOP Akumia Apraku warns of more arrests. He cautions drivers to be extra vigilant as the police have been deployed to check drivers who fail to obey traffic rules.
We are started. It's not going to be a 9-day wonder. We are going to sustain it to stop that practice from the region. So, by this warning everybody, not the motorbikes. If you are on the road using a car, tricycle, or anything, you have to observe the traffic lights. If it says stop, you stop. If it says go, you go. Nobody is to violate the light. If you do so and you are caught, we will put you at the right place.
Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
Let's talk about the fears of pregnant women now. And for fear of losing their pregnancies, many pregnant women in the Avo region have refused to accept COVID-19 vaccines. Only 187 pregnant women in the region have so far been vaccinated. The Regional Health Director, Dr. Kwabena Boateng-Boakye, says the situation is worrying. At a media engagement at Shidiam in the Esutifin North District, Dr. Boakye said they would have vaccination spots at the various antenatal clinics, an appeal to pregnant women to avail themselves for vaccination. Precious Semevo has more in this report.
Lifting the COVID-19 restrictions in Ghana, according to health authorities, does not mean the country is out of the woods. Ghana Health Service has a target to vaccinate 20 million people in Ghana by mid-2022. In the Afon region, with no active COVID-19 case, only 26.2% out of the estimated 451,548 people are fully vaccinated. Out of this number, only 187 are pregnant women, despite the vaccination services, including mobile vaccination teams in all 6 districts in the region. Regional Health Director Dr. Kwabena Boateng-Boakye, at a media engagement in Shidiam on the COVID-19 vaccination campaign, said the approved vaccines are safe for them and their unborn children, irrespective of their gestational age. He urged pregnant women to avail themselves as the Health Directorate steps up measures to vaccinate more people.
Currently now, pregnant women in Ghana have been included in those eligible for vaccination, irrespective of the number of months of pregnancy or technically the gestational age, can't get vaccinated with Pfizer or Moderna. And it's been proved that these vaccines are safe and will not affect the outcome of the pregnancy and also not affect their fertility in any way. We have vaccinations in all the facilities. But as an add-on, we are going to think through having a spot at the antenatal clinics. Yes, so that I can have a general one, but the ANC, there should be some there to talk about it and vaccines there ready for our pregnant women. So that's what for region we are going to think through and implement.
He said for the service to achieve the vaccination target, a monthly campaign in its second round is underway to improve the vaccine intake in the Afo region.
National COVID-19 vaccination days campaign, dubbed NACVAX, have been instituted. It's an important and critical step to reduce hesitancy and improve vaccine uptake towards achieving the target of having 20 million persons fully vaccinated by mid-2022. This will be a great milestone on the journey to attainment of herd immunity against the COVID-19. The second round of the NACVAX series commenced on the 21st of April 2022, and in fact was supposed to end on 25th of April, but it's still ongoing because the vaccination must be done every day. If a person is eligible for a booster, any of these 5 vaccines available could be given as a booster, regardless of the brand taken initially.
Dr. Boakye also urged the media to help promote positive behavior and lifestyle and strengthen the public trust and confidence in the COVID-19 vaccine. Precious Semevo, JoyNews, Shidiam.
Let's talk NSMQ now. They tried in 2021, but fell to the mercy of Nkranza SHTS. This year, nothing will stop the cream-shirted boys from St. James Seminary SHS from becoming the APSA Bono Zonal champions. After a heated final, the Saints managed to beat Techiman SHS to carry the day. They spoke to my colleague, Manuel Kranteng, after the contest.
They promised and they have delivered. They tried last year, it was not successful. This year they came back rejuvenated and indeed have proven on the stage that they are indeed the Bono Zonal champions. Oh,
the feeling is indescribable. It's a mixture of surprise, happiness, and just gratitude. Yeah, to everyone.
I mean, Techiman SHS, they were leading. In fact, even up until the 3rd round, it had to take the final riddle for you to be able to win. I mean, all this while, what were you feeling when you were singing?
Well, while we were on stage, the feeling of failure started coming upon us. But previously, our coordinators have always been telling us that the game is a game of composure. We have to keep our calm and make sure that we remain the same till the very end. Because once there is a way, it will surely pop out.
Moving into the competition now as zonal champions. You're going to meet zonal champions from Accra. Last year was Presec Legon. They went all the way to the grand finale. Ashanti region, they went all the way to the grand finale. Volta region, they went all the way to the grand finale. You are coming as Bono zonal champions. It means you must possibly make your way to the grand finale. That's some pressure on you?
Yeah. It's certainly a pressure. But from the Latin phrase, Ki mutum datum, ki mutum expectatum. To whom much is given, much is expected. As such, since we are giving all this love from our teachers, from our friends, from everyone, you should surely expect that this momentum will surely never die out.
There's this gentleman who told me before we went. Okay, you told me that you are going to win. Did you see something in the spiritual realm that we did?
Yeah. The two of them over here are excellent, phenomenal students to tell you. They're heads, they're champions to be exact. They study so hard, so I knew they were going to get it done.
Have you lived in the US or in the UK or something?
Yes, please. I've lived in Canada actually. I'm a citizen. Yes, please.
That's why I'm speaking the English I can't speak.
But they're great. This is just a warning to all of you that you're going to see the powers of Digby and Alex. So you better go and prepare hard because they are great.
They are great. Well, these are the guys from St. James Seminary Senior High School here in Sunyani. The cap was in Sunyani and they made sure that it has been retained even though they came up against 3 schools from the Bono East region. Congratulations once again.
Well, just to wrap, elsewhere in the Western region, Shama SHS stunned Archbishop Porter Girls to be crowned champions of the Western Zone. And that's how we wrap the news for the morning. But coming up next, we have the news review. Do stay with us. Well, let's get into the news review now. And guess who just joined me? Samuel Kojo Braces in the studio. Beam, Charlie. What ain't happened?
Yeah, big man.
Hey.
Everything is fine.
Wagwan.
Everything is
and then me patu anamaya and can be flow be. You remember there was this time I dared, what's his name? One of the Tamale MPs. I don't know whether it's Tamale Central. Mutala. No, Mutala. Mm-hmm. I think it's Tamale, one of them. And he came on my show and somehow he had been speaking some patois before the show started. And
it affected you?
No, not even that. And then he started talking about how Kromo Yeyi Black Rasta and a Stoneboy. He is like, he's in there.
He's the next one.
And he did some, it even became a big story, entertainment story that we did. So this morning I was trying to see whether I could consult the patois oracle.
You see that, Jim?
It's not that kind of morning. It's too nippy. The weather is too chilly.
Well, if you don't get your patois, maybe I have to teach you a little of my language.
Oh, that?
To say, how are you? In my language, a hunter, we say kedia.
Kedia.
And then you say muoke.
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 No, muoke, that's it. You know, so
that's what, Nzima?
A hunter.
A hunter?
Yeah. So if you if you get patois, just say kedia. That's a hunter for you.
Okay. Yeah. Kojo, kedia.
Muoke. If I want to give you elective, I'll say more DNA. But that's elective, so.
I would have taken you on a rough terrain with international language. But as you say there,
don't try.
We take it. And there's a whole lot to talk about. So before we get into the papers, I just want to know, e-levy implementation, some 48 hours away.
Yeah.
And it's one of the major issues we're deliberating on today. In fact, for those of you watching, we'll activate the phone lines today. We want to hear from you. Are you ready? And what do you think about the implementation? But so far, we've heard some very interesting, had some very interesting dynamics. So Sam Jatta George has been saying, for example, and he's been interacting with us on the Super Morning Show. He has said that he has raised a number of concerns that the decision to begin the implementation of the e-levy would face a lot of hurdles. In fact, he can bet his bottom dollar that it will not happen. And in a tweet from him, he says, I am extremely confident that the Ghana Revenue Authority cannot implement the obnoxious e-levy in the format they have advertised on the 1st of May 2022. It is simply impracticable and untenable at this time. They either postpone the start date or revert to phase 1 of the implementation as earlier advised. That is what he says here. We've heard the GRA say categorically that they are rolling out the process on May the 1st. But we've seen a follow-up from them, haven't we?
I've been following a tweet by Bright Simons.
Right.
And he attached a circle of a sort from the GRA.
Right.
Now, he says anyone who has even breathed in the direction of software could have told the Finance Ministry for free that building a cross-network system to apply a long list of exemptions, etc., cannot be done in 1 month. Not when you don't even have a proper functional spec developed. Now, this is what the GRA thing he attached says. I don't know. You can see that.
Yeah.
So let me try and read it. It says the date was yesterday, 28th April. Of course,
so it's very current.
Yes, and it was
assuming the statement is actually kosher.
From there. Yes.
Right.
Now it says RE notice to commence the implementation of electronic transfer levy e-levy. This has reference to our letter dated April 4th, 2022 on the above subject. Following Ghana Revenue Authority's assessment of the general readiness of some charging entities to integrate with the e-levy management system, the Commissioner General has decided on a modified phased approach for the implementation of the levy from 1st of May 2022. The guidelines for the modified phased approach are attached herewith. Yours faithfully, Reverend Dr. Mishadai Owusu Amwa, Commissioner General, and copied to the Minister for Finance, Minister of State, Minister of Finance, Minister of Communications, the Governor Bank of Ghana, CEO ARB Apex Bank, Ghana Association of Banks, Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Ghana Chamber of Technology, Executive Secretary, Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies, Chairman, E-Levy Technical Committee, GRA.
Okay. So all of these people are copied in this, and that is the latest purportedly from
the GRA.
The GRA. So it makes for interesting reading, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right now, I guess many people are in limbo. Is it starting or not?
If you listen to the tone of this letter, it is.
Right.
But the wholesale approach is what probably they have considered to say, okay,
so there'll be a phase 1, phase 2.
So the GRA may probably have to educate us today as to what they mean by phased approach. What does it mean? If you say phased approach, what is going to be phase 1? What is going to be phase 2? So these are the kind of education we need to be having today.
And that dovetails into the last part of Sam George's tweet. He says, they either postpone start date or revert to phase 1 implementation as earlier.
So I'm sure he knows something we don't.
Right. And he's been saying quite a lot. He's been talking about different dynamics to it, but we'll get into it today.
Sure.
As we,
it's interesting anyway.
Other bits.
Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. Maybe just to wrap as well, and this is already in the Ghanaian Times, so I'll just cede to that. The Ghanaian Times newspaper. 3.2 million required to equip Ho Teaching Hospital Cardio Center. $3.2 million, of course. 29,954 teachers promoted to various ranks, and that is heartwarming, isn't it? And policemen allegedly commit suicide. Ooh. That's a sad situation.
That's terrible to hear.
Speaking of a policeman, that reminds me, though. Yesterday, in Kaikwe South, we had, unfortunate scenes that hopefully we will not see too many of. I cannot say ever see again, because we know how, we've seen pockets in other areas as well. Is it Yendi also, among other places? But there was someone that, when I sat here with Raymond yesterday as we spoke on those issues, that we felt was a police officer, which I guess the Ghana Police Service has come out to say, we do not know this person. Do you know what my worry is?
No.
If you recall Ayawaso West Wogon and what happened, this gentleman is dressed just like those who were the participants or those who created the sort of turmoil we saw in Ayawaso West Wogon with the dark, the brown boots and the other.
But those
gear,
were members of the
ones.
national security, weren't they?
So it's raised a lot of questions.
Is this guy a member of the national security or not?
That I cannot confirm because from what I hear, the Ghana Police Service has come out to say, we do not know this gentleman. He is not part of our team. But I'm asking myself, in terms of dressing protocols and all of that, are they allowed to dress this way if the person actually turns out to be the bodyguard, the bodyguard of Dakwa Newman, the member of parliament? I do not know.
But again, the MPs were giving personal police officers.
Is it all of them who have that?
But
this issue has been.
I think it's all of them.
It's been in the fray.
I think it's all of them. When we had this discussion some time ago about giving protection.
No, I recall. But a lot of them have also come out to say that it's not. And you'll be as ours.
Really?
I don't know whether it's all of them who have this kind of.
So under which circumstance did the Medina MP, what's his name, Lawyer Susu, right?
Right.
That's the Medina MP.
Right. Francis Xavier Susu.
Yes, get the police officer to be his bodyguard. You remember when they wanted to arrest him?
Right.
We're talking about
he had yeah.
So under which circumstances did he have? I know MPs who also have police officers as we shouldn't say bodyguards anyway. We probably say their security detail. So
let's say that is the norm. Let's assume that is the norm. So then it comes into play. The police service says we don't know this guy. They have disowned him. So who is he?
Oh, no.
Where is he coming from? And how come we are seeing this person supposedly vote, participating? Do you get the picture?
Yeah. Yesterday we were hearing.
Which then makes him a delegate.
We were hearing.
What is going on?
We are hearing that he is a chairman of one of the electoral areas or so. And that was an information that was coming up. Maybe, as you said, today we'll get better details.
So he's a pseudo security officer, and I'm not saying police. Pseudo security officer come.
I must quickly add that I know some MPs who don't also have police officers following them around.
No, that's exactly what I was pointing. I've had some of them tell me.
Yes.
So
maybe it wasn't everybody who took it, and probably Madam Dako also arranged his personal detail, and this is this guy. But we should be educated or informed on whether he is a delegate or what, so that when you are making analysis, you can then know what to say. Not just to conjecture.
Because Raymond and I were here, scratching our heads, basically wondering, so is he a police officer?
And when I was watching,
and he's voting,
I could have that.
It was a bit confusing.
We were all talking about it in the newsroom, that that's a police officer voting there. So yesterday in the evening, we learned that the police had invited him for interrogation.
Right.
The police should come out and give us better information.
And this is where sometimes it gets a bit murky because you don't get the sort of information you need. Everything is shrouded in secrecy. Oh, the police says he is not one of ours. So where does he lie?
Exactly.
Who is he? We need to know.
The police should come out.
We need to know. On occasion of the 30th anniversary of the referendum, and this was something else I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Democracy, good for us. President affirms and urges Ghanaians to renew trust in constitution. He's been saying that some people, for some selfish reasons, may want to use the back door, which is the military option, to come to power. I think it's on the back of some of what we've seen.
The utterances by some people
in recent times. Have you seen Oliver Barker-Vomo's Iku cake?
Iku cake.
Yeah.
Really, I've not seen
we had an e-levy cake. The majority leaders. Recently, I spotted him with an Iku cake, but I'm sure it was all in jest.
I haven't
just
seen
a jovial.
But I've seen a statement of him after the president spoke. But I think the president, what basically he wanted to do was to build our confidence in the constitution, to say, look, this is the best we can have. It might not be perfect. And he said this is a living constitution, so we need to modify it when we can. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to look at the provisions of the constitution that need to be touched. Because look, I always say the constitution was made for us, not us for the constitution. So it gets to a point we feel that this has outlived its relevance. We need to then touch it and make it relevant to the current context.
30 years on, everything is what it used to be.
That's why.
And I feel as a living document, any constitution is meant to be a living document. It must actually serve the ambitions, the aspirations. And when you read the preamble to the constitution, you see that. It must serve the purpose of the people.
And
so if the people are changing, the Ghanaians in 1992
the ambitions have changed.
Definitely are not the Ghanaians of 2022.
Because you hear people say that, well, the constitution was drafted in a way to give confidence to the leader at the time, Jerry John Lawrence, may God bless his memory, that we're moving from a military regime to a democratic regime. You needed to assure him that, look, you'll still be in charge. There are certain things that would inure to your benefit. And that's why certain provisions were put in the constitution. Long after him, we've had how many presidents after him? We've had John Agyekum Kufuor, we've had John Evans Atta Mills, we've had John Dramani Mahama, we've had Nana Addo Akufo-Addo.
I nearly said John Nana Addo.
We've had 4 presidents. So it tells you that we've gone way beyond Mr. Rawlings. And therefore, if there were certain things that were put in there to get him to buy into the idea, we should then change them. For example, the president spoke about the participation in local governance. You put a clause in there to say that.
Are you speaking of the 55-3?
Exactly. Right. If the president wants us to share our thought or to decide where we want to go to, bring it to us. Let us vote. Whether you want political parties to...
But that thing was coming, and they backtracked on it. That is what I'm saying. Because at the time, look, honestly, I feel at the time they realized that the sentiment was that people were not going to go for it.
No, so bring it.
So they had to backtrack to avoid many things. I mean, spending money. And other,
when they wanted to do the referendum on the constitution.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. At the time, the temperature. I'm sure Nana Addo and his government realized that if they put it forward, people would vote against it, and the aim wouldn't be achieved.
Which aim? That you want to involve the political parties.
No, I mean, when you look at 55-3 and what it says, and let me just quote here, because I have...
55-3 is basically about the fact that...
So it says, subject to the provisions of this article, a political party is free to participate in the shaping the political will of the people, to disseminate information on political ideas, social and economic programs of a national character, and sponsor candidates for elections to any public office other than to district assemblies or lower local government units. That is where the thorny area is, because we're looking at all of these being elected.
Yes.
You get it.
Exactly.
That was the provision. But at the time, I'm telling you that people, the sentiment generally was that people were going to vote against it. So instead of losing the battle, because once you put it up in the referendum, it is done. So let's avoid it, and maybe later, like we're seeing now, with the president suggesting that he still feels that it is a way that we ought to go as a country. So it may be tabled now. I have my difficulties.
But do you think if this referendum is, or this question is posed to Ghanaians, that would you allow political parties to participate? Do you think Ghanaians will agree to this?
I cannot say for certain. Ghanaians would have to decide. But at the time, the sentiment was against this bit. But for me, I mean, there are so many issues to look at when it comes to this matter. I feel it would have served a purpose, because guess what? The political parties have their influences there anyway, like it or not.
Exactly.
In fact, it is happening anyway.
Yes.
But the point is, once you legislate on it, give it power, then it becomes something else. Look at what we are seeing. And it's interesting. Look at what we saw in Kaikwe South. Look at what we are seeing intra-party within our political parties. NPP for now. Who knows what will happen in the NDC? Hopefully not same. But with all of these things happening, it tells you that even when it devolves further down, you can imagine what will happen. It will be more politics at that level, and who knows what will happen. So it's dicey for me.
So that is why that referendum should have gone ahead. Let us decide. You put it out there. We decided yes
or against. It was meant to go ahead. Some people decided, okay, let's not do it anymore.
But you had the president. The president said, I withdrew it because I didn't get a buy-in of the minority of the NDC.
I don't think it was necessarily the minority.
No, but he said the NDC pulled out of it, and that's why he didn't go ahead.
Government at the time felt it would have egg on its face if it went ahead with it. And the bit about referenda and getting it wrong, the people voting against it. It paints a negative picture. I feel in the interest of their party and looking good, they did what was in the interest of their party. But I feel that referendum should have been allowed to go ahead.
Anyway, because if that's the focus, that we want to ensure that Ghanaians whether agree or disagree in terms of allowing political parties into local governance, we should have pushed it out there. Let us decide. If we want to do it, we will. I know the CDD has done a survey in this regard, whether Ghanaians would want political party participation or not. So it's something that I feel like he gave an assurance, and I hope that he really lives up to it, that at some point in my term, before I leave office, I'll bring this whole thing back. And I pray that he does so that we Ghanaians can decide whether we want political parties to get involved or not. When Ghanaians decide, that is the decision of the country. That's the decision of all of us, and then we are bound by it. Right. So I hope that it comes out, then we can all decide.
Let's take a quick look at the daily graphic.
Well, it still talks about the e-levy taking off on Sunday. It says GRA banks, telcos ready for implementation. It comes with a photograph of Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa. Contrasting development at NPP constituency elections. Protect constitution against saboteurs. President rallies citizens.
And who are the saboteurs?
Well, like you said, people who have tried to promulgate the idea of, coup in a certain sense. Some people are on trial for this whole thing. You remember some people were caught and said they wanted to stage a coup. I hope you follow.
What has happened to all these people? From Dr. McPalm and all of the others. They're still, but that raises another question about, executing cases. Just yesterday we were talking about fast-tracking cases and the case-tracking systems with Professor Itia and others. If these people are culpable, and there's that police officer as well, I've forgotten his name. If these people are culpable, the law should deal with them appropriately and the right sentences should follow. If they are not, why are we keeping them in this cagey situation where they are either incarcerated, not granted bail and all of that? That also feeds into this whole bit, the human rights issue. You remember that report very recently from the US State Department that we are talking about. If it is confirmed, go through the legal processes within a certain span. It's treason felony, so what? Go through it and let them face the penalty. If not, why are we? It's like Oliver Barker-Vormawor.
I'm sure
you're going to end up anyway.
I'm sure you've heard the statement that the wheels of justice grind slowly. So maybe that is one of them. Now, if you go to page 13, there's an article that says encourage girls, women to bridge the digital divide. That's written by Dr. Prince Hamid Ama, Member of Parliament for Kwesimintim. Beautiful article that I'm sure if you get to read, it would really help you to appreciate why we need to empower our girls and women to really go into the digital space. Yeah.
Let's look at some other stories. The Finder newspaper, here's what they found. Lands Minister markets Ghana's bauxite to investors abroad. There's also tripartite committee tasked to submit single spine review report in 3 months. Now, this interests me, this whole bit about the single spine. It's on the back of that we've seen, all the agitation from CLOCSAC and the TUC and others. And now there's disagreement between those two unions, even concerning May Day celebrations.
Yeah.
But the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Mr. Ignatius Bafwewa, has tasked the National Tripartite Committee to review the single spine pay policy and submit a report on it in 3 months. The minister said this when he inaugurated a 9-member technical committee to review the policy and make recommendations for consideration by government. We've done about 10 years plus of single spine without any proper reviews. Yeah. And recently, as what's his name, Austin Game corrected me, we've had a few, confabs on that. But it obviously needs a lot of tweaking. I don't feel it's serving its purpose in entirety, and I agree that it ought to be looked at. Fourth Republic democracy has been good for Ghana. Let's protect it, President Akufo-Addo. And Kaikwe South NPP finally elects constituency executives peacefully. Yeah, after all the fracas.
After the initial brouhaha there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But just to ask you, on the back of what the president has said, let's protect it, the Fourth Republican democracy. I just want to find out from you, as a young person in this country, our brand of democracy, what we have practiced in the Fourth Republic, forget everything from before, has it lived up to expectation? Rawlings to Kufuor to Mills, may so rest in peace, and Rawlings may so rest in peace as well, to Mahama, to Akufo-Addo. Sometimes when I hear talk about this, as a student of politics, I wholly agree. The militant or military option or martial option is not the way to go. But sometimes I sit down and reflect, this democracy, per our own practice, how we have contextualized it, is it serving our purpose?
In a way, yes, in a way. But it needs modification, really. About the way we have practiced it, we need to have a change. Like some time ago, I said that the way we have monetized student politics
Now who caused them? MPC, NDC. It's them now cause them.
It's dangerous.
They've made it degenerate. Tain and Tescon
exactly.
Look, to the point where even SRC elections
is on party lines. And we know, you cannot hide from this, that this candidate is from the MPP, this candidate is from the NDC.
And look, I interact with some of these people. They'll tell you see that they are being bankrolled by people in the party.
Oh yes.
And you see them doing things. So the corruption starts right from there.
So, so you can say that we have lived up to expectation as to how it has made us a stable, democracy in West Africa. And when you are talking about stable democracies in Africa, I'm sure we are part of the top 5, So it's good, but the way we do it, where we have monetized our democracy, where the way we've I don't know if I should call it insultified. Insult is part of it, use of machoism. All of these things are things that we need to change about our democracy. There are fine brains that don't want to get associated with partisan politics because of the way we've gone about it. That some young boy can get up and be insulting anybody because in the name of politics.
Because we've tainted it. And you see, that is precisely why when it comes to Article 55.3 of our Constitution, that's my fear. As it goes down. These are some of my fears. The same influence.
But that is why I think
Ghanaians
that's why I think Ghanaians will not buy into this. So give it to them. Let us decide.
Well,
do you want political parties to get involved?
I agree with you. Let the people decide.
Yeah. But let me take you back to the daily graphic short.
Sure.
Sorry. On page 18, it says reverse injunction. Kwesi tells Supreme Court. The Asan North Member of Parliament is still battling this issue with the Supreme Court. When you get the paper, you can get details in there. Now, CPP internal challenges under control. Bright Akwete says. I'm sure you've been. I saw you talking a lot to them about their internal politics.
So I spoke to the party's chairperson, Madam Kumankuma, and as well as the General Secretary of the party, Nana Addo, and we can only wish them the best.
The best, okay. Now let me take you to the daily guide. It says democracy has been good for us. Akufo-Addo says. U.S. affirms 2020 polls. Baumia tout government digitization feat. Fire kills 2 at Kolebu. This thing was, why?
See, I always have my problems with some of the papers that take only one angle. Yes, the human rights report says that per reports, from our own papers and all of that, the polls were, pretty credible. But it also talks about the 8 people who were killed. It talks about the other negatives. We should have balanced stories talking about all of these matters as well.
Okay. When you go to page 5 of Daily Guide, it says Putin warns US and allies against intervention in Ukraine. So it is to tell you, Masa, stay in your lane. Don't come here, because if you do, the ramifications will be too dire. Fight verdict in Sankara trial. Guilty verdict in Sankara trial. Activists fight against impunity in Burkina Faso. These stories can be found in the Daily Guide newspaper. Ben.
Let's quickly look at this. Republic Press. UN Under-Secretary General connects with spirits of African ancestors. What are you saying?
Come in again.
UN Under-Secretary General connects with spirits of African ancestors.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Nana, he's calling on... CEOs of state-owned enterprises don't do anything to deserve fat salaries. That's according to Ken Thompson of Delegates Finance. You remember the sector minister has been talking about the fact that he is a fan of fat salaries.
And then again he said that he is an advocate for good pay, and that if you pay people well and they don't do what you exact performance from them, I think, like you said, sometimes we should also bring that one to up.
So it's a wrap for me. I don't know.
Oh, it is for you. Anyway, tripartite, when you go to the publisher, it says tripartite committee tasked to submit single spine review report in 3 months. You mentioned it. And the clock sack thing, the other time when we met them at the Labour Commission, they said they've given the employer today to submit a payment plan for their neutrality allowance. It is upon the receipt of that they will take a decision as to whether they should continue or they should withdraw.
Charlie, with all this talk, I think, come to think of it, I think I should also ask my employer for neutrality allowance.
Neutrality allowance. Yeah, the other day we were discussing that it's even. Oh, yeah.
What was that?
Journalists going in here.
You find a team bomb and could say.
But me, I should say. Can answer.
But are you ready for the e-levy?
Oh yes. I mean, look. What more can I do? You remember when there was this communication service tax?
Yeah.
People said, "Oh, we'll reduce the number of calls we make. Yeah. We'll do this." What happened?
Right.
We even increased.
No, but that did not have any loopholes. This has loopholes. You can you decide whether it will hit you or not.
Anyway, but I mean, I've not taken any decision. I'm still on mobile money, and I'll still be on.
Maybe I can sing the song. I have decided. ... Up next we have Sports Tuesday.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreku Ampofo. We start off from Asamoah Gyan's book that he's set to release tomorrow, and former Senegalese captain El Hadji Diouf has called on football legends of African football to follow the steps of Asamoah Gyan. The former Sunderland forward will release his book on Saturday. The project is aimed at capturing the memoirs of the former Sunderland striker. El Hadji Diouf spoke to my colleague Gary Alsmith.
Definitely, like what I say before, the book we're gonna write right now is not about like how good we are. People know how good Asamoah Gyan was because if you go to Google, you can see. Same to me. But the most important thing about this book is about like you can come from zero to be tomorrow hero. You know, like what I say, my grandparents used to sell fish and peanut. Life was so hard. I remember my first boots of football. You know, and today I'm the happiest man in the world. And it's about how we make it and where we're coming from. And you can come from this level and to reach the highest level possible about wanting respect, hard work, and like what I always say, respecting your teammate. Because we're winning, we're good because we have a good teammate too.
I was asking you, how important is it for more and more African players to write their own story? How important is it?
Of course, it's very important because tomorrow, in 50 years time, this future generation coming, they have to know maybe Asamoah is not here anymore. I'm not here in 50 years time anymore. I hope I.
No, you'll be here.
But if we are not here at the school, they have to know who's Asamoah Gyan. He was a top scorer in the World Cup. And he's still the top scorer, African top scorer in the World Cup, and he do it very well in making African very proud. You know, today we're talking about like World Cup. Since we left the World Cup, I played one World Cup, I played the quarterfinal of the World Cup. Sam, to Asamoah, he played two, he played quarterfinal of the World Cup. How amazing he is, and people don't know how hard he is, because the World Cup is not like the African Nation Cup, because the World Cup mentally, you have to be ready, and you have to fight for the big gun one, like Zidane, like Maradona, like Johan Cruyff. That's why they call you after the world-class players.
After taking West Africa by storm in the pre-World Cup qualifier in Kumasi in November last year, the national female rugby team is expected to move a notch higher as Ghana competes for a coveted singles slot in this year's Women's Rugby Cup Sevens in South Africa. Ghana has been placed in Pool C of the final shootout alongside host Tunisia and Madagascar. The competition kicks off today, and here is head coach of the side, Lovemore Kuzawera.
Definitely, because for them, the tournament is structured that they need to win their first two matches. It's different from the guys. The guys need to win the first game, but for the ladies, they need to win their first two matches. So under any circumstances, we have to beat Tunisia at home, then beat Madagascar for us to progress into the cup final. The girls actually showed Ghana that they are in a better shape. Remember, in 2019, it was their first time this will be the second time. They went in 2019, and for the first time in that tournament, they finished winning the trophy challenge. So for them, the confidence is always high. So going into this tournament, they rally behind each other so much. They are bonded well. There is no politics amongst them. They want to play and they want to showcase their talent. They are more hungry. So we believe they will definitely do well.
You look at the legislation 6.2.
Yeah.
6.2 of the legislation says that, because I'm not reading from
it says the Commissioner General shall not contract a private service provider to provide at a fee or commission any revenue monitoring or revenue assurance service for the purposes of this act.
Fantastic. Can the GRA tell us, because the GRA did not have a platform for the monitoring and revenue assurance of e-levy before e-levy came to Parliament. Now they claim they have a system. Can they tell the Ghanaian people how they acquired that system? What public tender, public procurement process went on, and who the service provider is? If they can show us a procurement process signed off, publicly advertised, signed off by PPA, I'll never speak on this matter again. But the facts remain that Express Pay has built a platform which the GRA claims that they are going to be using. Question is, how much are they paying them for it? Now, another critical thing you should bear in mind is Express Pay is a PSP. It's a payments support or service provider. They are in competition with several other PSPs that are supposed to be on this platform. Now, all of these PSPs are looking for a share of the market. So they come to multimedia and say, we can offer you this service and at this price, competitive pricing. So Express Pay is in competition with other PSPs. What the GRA has done is to pick an Express Pay platform and basically mandated, actually, it's not a request, it's a mandate that all the PSPs and EMIs who have merchants, and these merchants are the clients of these PSPs, submit the name, contact details, and all relevant details of your client base to this platform that is being run by Express Pay. Huge conflict of interest. So I'm in competition. It's just like, it's as though the NCA decides tomorrow that all radio stations should provide all your business partners who run adverts, but provide it to a platform that is run by a sister radio station. That's the huge conflict of interest you're seeing here.
So let me ask this. So you're saying this because you've seen what, a contract?
I'm saying this because the GRA has set up what they call Skype groups, and in those they've set up Skype groups for each PSP. The GRA has already written to the PSPs to submit these details. Now, when they submitted those details in the Skype groups, you go on your Skype group, a PSP logs onto his Skype group and is hoping to talk to the GRA Technical Implementation Committee, and you see Mr. Kojo Hesi of Express Pay on the Skype meeting for a different PSP as a technical partner for the GRA. So it's as though you go to the NCA for a meeting, and when you go to the NCA as multimedia, you find Samens of City being part of the NCA's team to sit and vet your processes. How comfortable will you feel? I'm putting this on for fact, and I said the PSPs on the Skype group meetings, Mr. Kojo Hesi, I've mentioned his name, has been in those meetings as part of the technical implementation, because Express Pay, and Kojo Hesi is one of the founders or one of the CEOs of Express Pay. So how then do you,
one of the shareholders,
how then do you expect persons who are competing in the same space to then now start dealing with, in quote, a regulator who is a private sector player?
I understand your point, but is that contravening the law?
The law says that there should be no private entity. So is Express Pay doing this as public service?
So what if they built a platform?
First of all, you keep saying Express Pay. If you don't mind, let's clarify this. First of all, you keep saying Express Pay.
Yes.
Is the arrangement between GRA and Express Pay, or between GRA and Kojo Hesi?
It's between Express Pay and the GRA, because it's the GRA that is running this. And you see, it's interesting. Again, and I've shared with your production, as soon as the e-levy came to Parliament, this was a deal that was cooked. And I mean, today I said I'm doing full disclosure. There's a gentleman called Ernest Akoli at the Ministry of Finance and GRA who works in there. He's been doing this Ghana.gov thing. I mean, they're the ones behind all of this cooking. You get it.
Now, as soon as e-levy was coming up, they go to the Registrar General's department and change the shareholding structure of the company. And I'll put it out. I've shared that document with your production, so I'm sure you can put it on your Facebook page. Originally, in 2014, when Express Pay was registered, there were 7 shareholders. Yao Botre Anku, Afidede Nasam, Pa Kofi Frimpong Bafoewa, Chum Jin, Samuel Vanderpoy, Alice Ejiri, and Adrian Kobe Adams. Okay. The largest shareholder, who held 245,367 shares, was Afi Dede Nasam. As soon as e-levy came to Parliament and the whole thing started, a letter went to the Registrar Generals introducing 4 new individuals as shareholders. Curtis Ni Amu Vanderpoy. And let me repeat this. The biggest shareholder, Afi Dede Nasam of Express Pay, held 245,367 shares. The next to her was Chum Jin, who held 103,488 shares. Curtis Ni Amu Vanderpoy is introduced, and he holds 3,291,199 shares. Kojo Ni Ayihesi is also introduced onto the shareholding structure. He also holds 3,291,199 shares. Kwei Mensa Abuadri Hesi also is introduced, holding 711,610 shares. William Nitete is also introduced, holding 2,194,133 shares. Between these 4 new entrants into the shareholding structure, they are holding over 10 million shares, ordinary shares of the company. The real owners, in quotes, or the 7 previous owners, shareholders, put together, are holding less than 2 million.
Okay.
Shares.
Are you suggesting there's something wrong here?
The shareholding, look, nobody's a kid. Okay? There's this 241 million Ghana cedi deal being cooked, $40 million deal being cooked to get something done for the collection of e-levy. A private sector vehicle is selected without recourse to our public procurement laws, because we have not seen any public look, a $241 million Ghana cedi contract cannot be done by head of entity.
But is there a contract? That's the most important question.
So the question we should ask ourselves is Express Pay, and I've been saying this for 4 weeks. Why has Express Pay not come out to say they are doing this as public service and they are not collecting a dime?
But is there a contract? We can't say things that we haven't proved. And I have to give this disclaimer, okay? We have not, at Joy, we have not independently verified any of these claims. We are now going through details that Sam George is sharing, okay? So allow me to play the devil's advocate. Is there a contract between Express Pay and the GRA?
The GRA will be the best to answer this.
Okay, so you haven't seen such a contract?
Like I've said, they'll be the best persons to answer this question.
All right. Now, the change in shareholding, is there wrongdoing here? Is there something, or for example, are you seeing the introduction of, say, some politician or politically exposed persons into the shareholding structure of this company?
I mean, the 4 individuals who have been mentioned, it is if you are in this space, you would understand whatever connections or political affiliations exist.
So who is the biggest shareholder now?
The biggest shareholder, there are two of them, Curtis Niamu Vanderpoy and Kojo Hesi.
All right. We know Kojo Hesi, right?
Absolutely.
Is he politically affiliated to any party as far as you're aware?
Why me asking me his political affiliation?
If you are aware, I'm sure you will say so.
His political affiliation is
not known to you.
Well, for me, it's not known. I've not seen, he's not shown me his voting card.
How about Curtis?
Again, these are individuals who, like I said, I would not be in a position to sit here and say are NDC or NPP. However, like I've said, there are relationships that predate they are coming on board.
It's good that you've said that, because the one thing we have been able to verify is that the original biggest shareholder, Afi Dede Sam, is married to Curtis. That's husband and wife.
Sure.
So the wife used to be the biggest shareholder. The husband is now the biggest shareholder.
Well, thank you for staying with us as we get into our big stories for the day. Of course, we're going to be talking about the e-levy, anticipating it 48 hours to roll out day. But will it actually roll out? If you look at the latest statement from the GRA, so many things to digest. We'll also be talking later on about the constituency elections in the NPP. And we're going to tease out some important bits as well when it comes to, the SOEs and some of the recent things we've heard from the likes of Joseph Kujo, the sector minister, and again, Professor Stephen Ade. We'll be engaging Professor Ransford Jampo on that shortly. But joining us for the conversation on the e-levy and more, we have Dr. Theo Echampong, economist. We also have Dr. John Kuma, Deputy Finance Minister, joining the conversation. Dr. Echampong, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining. I believe you may either have to unmute or maybe there's a challenge with the sound.
It should be okay now, I believe.
Right. I can hear you now. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we'll be talking about the e-levy and extensively, but something that piques my interest that I'd like to run by you. I'm sure you followed what has been happening in recent days and weeks as far as SOEs are concerned. The latest report on the back of the performances of the SOEs. And some people have even hinted or intimated that if we had managed our SOEs well, properly, we wouldn't be where we are needing an e-levy. So that's the hook. And we've had the sector minister, Joseph Kujo, say that he is a fan of fat salaries. In other words, proper remuneration, good remuneration for these SOEs, their executives and others. We've also taken a look at some of these executives and the benefits they get, even for accommodation. The perks are myriad. I want your take on that situation, especially considering that as we talk about them and as we talk about public services, we have CLOCSAG and the TUC also, engaging on these self-same matters about their conditions of service. How do you react to this bid? Our SOEs, many of them underperforming, and the sector minister saying, well, I'm an advocate for fat salaries, among other things.
Morning once again, a pleasure to be here. I think the first principle to state here is that remuneration must be linked to performance, right? And in that respect, if I'm paying you, for example, 10,000 Ghana cedis to run an operation, then I would expect that at the end of every month or quarter or every year, there will be some demonstrable improvement in terms of certain core metrics or indicators that is associated with the firm or the service that you're providing to me. So that, I think, really ought to be the core or the cardinal point that we then pivot all our analysis around to get a better appreciation of the context. So coming back to the SOE, then the question then becomes, if we're paying the CEOs, the executive directors, you name it, all these very good perks, which on average, the other workers within the public service are not getting, then you would have expected a commensurate, improvement in the business profitability indicators of these various SOEs. But when you look at the 2020 SOE report, and indeed any of the other SOE reports from the previous years, it makes a sordid or so reading. And that reflects the fact that we are paying people and we're not seeing the improvement or the performance that should be commensurate with that payment structure. So I don't have any issue per se with paying people what the market rate ought to be. And let it also not be misconstrued that we should pay the CEOs of these SOEs a lower amount. No, I think we should pay them fairly, but we need to demand an improvement in the running of these organizations. And if we're not seeing those improvements in the bottom line financial indicators or operational indicators of these SOEs, then we have to find a way of, sacking them, or in some instances, privatizing a number of them as well. The last point I would add to this initial submission is also the fact that despite the CEOs being paid whatever salaries amount, remember that we are in a political environment that there's also often a lot of obstacles sometimes that are placed in their way. So the politics and even the appointment of the board members of some of these SOEs often means that sometimes there's conflict. And so the organization then is not being run optimally in a way that then ensures that value is being created. So it's a number of things. But the remuneration, personally, I think we should pay people properly, and then we demand performance and or accountability from them.
And how do you feel? I mean, you've spoken about privatization as well. There are many people, the likes of economist PNM as well, who has said that, look, when it comes to managing them, we've not done a good job. I mean, for so many decades. And so if the time has come for us to let go of some of them, we should do so, apart from the critical ones. What is your quick take on that?
I fully support that. I have been calling for some of the companies, the SOEs, to perhaps be offloaded. We've been on this journey before as a country, going back to the structural adjustment program of the 80s and the 90s. And we have not really done a great job in terms of this whole privatization agenda. I think, for one, that there are far too many of these, state-owned enterprises. And the government doesn't necessarily have to run all of them. In other jurisdictions, what you actually have seen happen is you have like a holding enterprise, a holding entity that just has equity stakes in these, investments. And they then allow the private sector and or people who have the wherewithal, the competence, and the expertise to then run these enterprises and ultimately generate a profit and a return and pay dividends to the state. Because after all, what we want is to create enough value, create enough jobs to be able to deal with the problems that we're facing as a country. And in that regard, I think that some of them, after going through a rigorous analysis, you'll find that a number of these SOEs, in my view, are not worth keeping on the books of the government.
Right.
And even if we wanted to do that, let's have relative stakes in them in another investment vehicle, like a ring-fence vehicle.
Right.
That then means that the day-to-day operational running of the SOE is sort of ring-fenced in a way from the political pressures of the day.
Okay.
That, I think, would be a way to go. But definitely there are quite a number of them that we'll have to perhaps think about privatizing.
Okay. Dr. Champo, hold for me. I'll come back to you when we start dealing with the substantive issues of the e-levy. But just to cap off this end of the conversation in terms of the latest concerning our SOEs, we're also joined by Professor Ransford Jampo on the phone lines. Professor Jampo, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you. I've been reading something you've put out there very recently, and I would like to take your thoughts on it. But before I read some of what you've put together, it's on the back of what Professor Stephen Addo, former head of the NDPC, as well as the GRA, has been saying. And in respect of the clock sack strike, and that dovetails into the performance of our public sector as well, he has said, if I were in government, on the back of the neutrality allowance and all of that, I would lock up the public servants, sack them, and bring in the military. And you have taken issue with that. In fact, you have asked in your latest piece, should elderly statesmen in democratic regimes be saying these? When Jerry Rawlings, the man who boldly said he wasn't a fan of multi-party democracy, once threatened to kick out striking university lecturers from their bungalows and storm the lecture halls with soldiers, these elderly people took up issue with him. And there's something you say that I just want to quote from here. We must, however, not think about sacking bureaucrats and replacing them with soldiers simply because they made a demand which some subjectively think is nonsensical. And you talk about rationality. But why exactly do you have a problem with what Professor Stephen Addo said? Break it down for us.
Well, you see, I teach a course called Governance and Leadership. And one of the introductory part of that course is to discuss the actors in the governance process.
Right.
And apart from the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, the media, civil society, the military, etc., we also talk about eminent people also as being part of the actors within the governance process of any country.
Right.
And the role of eminent people in the governance process is for them, those who have seen it all. Eminent people, you are talking about people who have served the nation in several capacities, have served regimes, they have retired, and they are people with a lot of experience. They are people who do not need any political appointment. They are people who have already made it in life. These people are supposed to be neutral, they are supposed to be objective, they are supposed to be fair-minded, and they are supposed to make fair assessment of situations and then offer advice.
It's interesting, just if I may just interject, you say they are supposed to be neutral. Interestingly, we're talking about neutrality allowance and all of that. But do you suggest the good old professor is not being neutral when he says what he did?
Well, so you let me develop the point. So the point is that I was quite taken aback when such an eminent Ghanaian who must rather be offering counsel to all of us politically and in all other spheres of life, decided to go on that tangent. Remember, we were all in Ghana when at one point in time, Jerry Rawlings threatened striking lecturers. Now, if you guys don't go back to the class, we'll kick you out of your bungalows and replace you with soldiers. The likes, people like Professor Addo were not happy with that comment emanating from Jerry Rawlings. And so when I heard him saying that those demanding neutrality allowance should be kicked out and replaced with soldiers, I asked myself, what has changed? Must we see? We always try to demystify the conduct of politics or the game of politics in our lecture halls when we are teaching level 100 students, because they have this kind of mindset that politics is a game of lies, deceit, and it's always dirty. Such tendencies that do not uphold principles would always make people have that derogatory conception and perception about politics.
Right.
What has changed? Yesterday, it was wrong when somebody says, I'm going to kick public servants out and replace them with soldiers. Right. Now, today, it is right. And what the same person who took issues with that thing yesterday is now sounding like that. But you see, it is worrying. Let me tell you, people do not know. Neutrality. I am a student of Max Weber. Max Weber was the first scholar who propounded the ideal type of the bureaucracy. And he had a lot of features for them. Two of them are important. The feature of anonymity and the feature of neutrality. Anonymity as a feature simply says that the public servants should work very hard, but they should not take any praise and they should not take any blame for whatever decision they take. And so they work very hard. When it goes on well, they are not praised. When it doesn't go on well, they are not blamed. The other bit is neutrality. Neutrality simply says that bureaucrats must not be, please pay attention to this very well, because I've seen so many people who are ignorant about the concept of neutrality trying to throw that into the air. When Max Weber argued that bureaucrats ought to be neutral, he never said that bureaucrats shouldn't vote. The principle or concept of neutrality as espoused by Max Weber simply says that no bureaucrat should be seen to publicly identify with any political party. That is to say, you are not, as a bureaucrat, expected to be seen adorning yourself with party paraphernalia. You are not to be seen wearing party t-shirts. You are not to be seen at party rallies. You are not to be seen openly campaigning for any political party. But when it's time for vote, you have to go and vote secretly. So I've heard people ignorantly say that, if you vote, then you can't be neutral. Who told you that if you are neutral, you cannot vote? Aristotle said, man is by nature a political animal. And so being neutral does not deprive anybody the right to exercise choice when it matters. And the Max Weber himself, who propounded this theory, never said that bureaucrats should not vote.
Right.
Now,
so tell me.
Please, let me finish. Please, let me finish. Let me say this. So the idea of neutrality is supposed to ensure that these bureaucrats will be able to serve all regimes. So party A will come, they will serve you. Party B will come, they will serve you. Party C will come, they will serve you. In the process of this long service, they gain experience. That gives them the opportunity to be able to offer wise counsel to all appointees who go head those bureaucrats. That's why you don't need any competence or expertise to go head a ministry as a minister. People are appointed as ministers of defense. They are not soldiers. People are appointed as ministers for health. They may not be medical officers. But because these bureaucrats have served in all regimes and have not demonstrated preference for regime A or regime B, they have garnered enough experience and they offer the lap upon which the ministers will sit. Now they are saying that because they have been neutral, they have been impoverished. Those who have not been neutral have always had ATM machines on their verandas because of political appointments.
Okay.
And so they are saying that if I am neutral and then I'm being impoverished, but my neutrality helps me in constituting effective administrative machinery of the state and helping the state to develop, and you have decided not to be neutral, and that always gives you money, then pay me something to compensate for my neutrality.
So your thoughts?
You may disagree with this. You may disagree with this. And like I said, if you read Max Weber, you say, this shouldn't be a way to go. You may disagree with this. But we must be rational and logical and fair in our analysis of this situation. The way to go, if you disagree, is not to say that they should be kicked out and be replaced by soldiers. Professor Addo, we know him. When he was a neutral academic, he knows his salary that he took. And when he decided not to be neutral and he joined partisan politics, we know the number of boards he served on and how that translated tangibly into resources that were given to him by way of certain allowances and all that. We know all these things. So why do you change standards or shift goalposts simply because today things are different? I think our politics will continue to be seen as dirty and a game of lies so long as eminent people do not uphold principles in their public utterances when it comes to discussing matters of politics.
Okay, so it appears we've lost Professor Jampo there. But interesting points he's been making, and at least we get the gist of it. He is very unhappy with some of the comments emanating from Professor Stephen Addo on this bit. But we continue from where he left off. At least we've engaged him. Dr. Echampong, thank you for staying with us. So even as we get into the e-levy, any quick reaction to what Professor Jampo has said? Any quick reaction? If not, then we just go into the e-levy and what we are looking at on May the 1st.
I've been following the discussion, and I think perhaps it was a bit of an unfortunate comment that was made by the eminent man. I mean, the whole idea of going.
You mean Professor Addo?
Yes, going to bring military people in there and all of that. I couldn't fathom that. But that's probably as much as I can say on this.
All right. So let's get into the e-levy proper. And there's been a lot of talk. I mean, I'm sure you followed what Sam George has been saying as well, talking about the bottlenecks that we are going to be facing if we roll out the implementation on May the 1st. In fact, he has thrown a challenge that it cannot be rolled out on May the 1st as it has been planned unless it is phased out. And we've seen a document supposedly emanating from the GRA which says that, in fact, they are now contemplating operating on phase 1, whatever that means, when it comes to the implementation of the e-levy. But from where you sit, what do you see, the mechanisms in place? Are we ready for the implementation of the e-levy?
I managed to speak to some people within the telco space and people that are sort of better acquainted on the operational or system side of things. And in my interactions with them, what was quite clear is the fact that we're not fully ready to sort of implement or roll out the system. And if anything, perhaps it would be done kind of in a stepwise or perhaps in a phased manner. But regardless, on or come the 1st of May, we would have the e-levy being implemented one way and or another. There would be teething problems, there would be operational challenges, there would be issues that would have to be resolved as it's being rolled out. And that then all means that the first few weeks of implementation perhaps would be a little bit chaotic, but eventually it would be resolved in that manner. But speaking to people within the telco space, people who, like I said, are better acquainted on the operational side of things, what is quite clear is that the systems are not exactly fully ready as yet.
And when you say they're not fully ready, what is your leg on? I mean, what would you have expected to see as of this time that we are not seeing?
I mean, look, when the announcement was made and all the back and forth, I mean, you need to put a whole infrastructure around this. You need to design software, coding, ensure that they talk to each other. When I send, let's say 500 CDs, the system should be able to identify, have you done the cumulative amount of that 100 CDs? Are you a merchant or not? All those sort of things do take time for one to test them, to deploy them, and then further to ensure that it actually works at scale. And when I spoke to those who work within this space, what was quite clear is that some steps have been taken, the systems have been tested, but in terms of the mass deployment or mass rollout, they're not too sure as yet. So that's as much as I know. But I mean, regardless, with any big policy intervention or move like this, normally in the first few weeks, sometimes even months, you have problems. And those problems would eventually, I believe, be resolved in that regard. But some have also then called, well, what's the rush in all of this? Perhaps the government should slow down a bit and make sure that everything is fully identified and all the teething technical or technological issues are resolved before rollout. But I think from the side of government, the point really also is that the revenues are badly needed. So let's roll it out and then we'll resolve any technical issues as and when they come. That is the sort of impression that I get reading the situation.
But let me also bring in Dr. John Kumar, Deputy Finance Minister, who is on the line with us, joining the conversation. Dr. Kuma, always a pleasure having you. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And good morning to Dr. Tio Champong.
Just to find out from you, how ready are we for the implementation of the e-levy in some 48 hours? If you looked at it, holistically, the entirety of it, on a scale of 1 to 100, how ready would we be for implementation?
We are 95% ready. So the 48 hours should make it 100%.
So we are 95% ready, and the next 48 hours will be 100% ready.
Yes, we are rolling out, God willing, May 1st. The e-levy is coming on live. It is also not true. Let me try to respond to the propaganda out there that e-levy is going to tax churches and mosques for their tithe and offerings. That's a complete lie and falsehood, and I encourage people to disregard that claim. There's no truth in that statement. E-levy does not affect churches, their offerings and tithes or zakat or things like that. So let me put that in perspective.
Dr. Kuma, just to clarify, so, and I listened to that conversation as Sam George and others had them. He specifies that, especially on the back of COVID, some people may not go to church, but they pay their tithes, they pay their offering via Momo. You're aware of that, right? And that is what he was referencing, that if these churches, they may have to use merchant numbers, or if they are not, then it means that if I decide to send, let's say, 200 CDs as offering or tithe, and I am using Momo, 1.5 will hit me, right? But that's supposed to be offering. If I were giving it in church, there would be no 1.5 on it. So that is the context in which some of this is. How is that going to be managed?
Yes, that's the context I completely disagree. First of all, assuming you issued a check for your tithe of, say, 2,000 Ghana cedis, your bank is still going to charge you for your bank charges services for issuing a check. Does it mean that you are being charged for your tithe? Or assuming that I picked my car, bought fuel, and drove to the bank and withdrew 2,000 cedis to go and pay my tithe. The transportation to the bank to do the withdrawal and transportation to the church, is it part of the tithe I'm paying? So this is a complete propaganda just to create unnecessary fear in people. If you decide to pay your tithe of 2,000 Ghana cedis, exactly 2,000 Ghana cedis will go to the church or to the mosque, and it will not be taxed. E-levy is not designed to tax churches.
How will the system detect that this money that I am sending to my church is for this, and so it will not be taxed? Because it's going to be a Momo transaction still.
Yes, there's a difference between being charged for using Momo and telling us that we are charging your tithe or we are taxing your offering. They are two different things. I don't know if you get the picture I'm painting. The argument is that if I send my tithe by Momo, I may be taxed 1.5% after 100 Ghana cedis as a service charge. But that is not going to affect the amount of tithe I'm going to pay to my church. And it is the same way if I had written a check. My tithe will still be paid, but my bank will still charge me for the services of issuing the check. It's the same way if I had gone through a car to do the fiscal withdrawal, I was still going to pay my TNT before I did the withdrawal to go and pay in church. So let's not confuse these things to say that e-levy is coming to charge tithe and church offerings. This is a big lie. It's a complete falsehood, and I don't want anybody to give attention to that claim. Now, on the issue of
something to what Honorable is saying,
yes,
just for the purposes of public education.
Okay,
yes.
Dr. Champong, are you speaking there? Because I can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
It's still very low. Okay, but you go ahead.
Yeah, just to add something to what Honorable was saying on this for the public education purposes, that I think the good thing here with this, with the churches actually, is that it will force them to register as merchants. And if they are registered as a merchant, then that then means that when you send that transfer to them on a merchant basis, you don't pay any of the 1.5% transfer on that. And from a tax point of view, at least it allows the GRA and even the ministry to see, how many of these entities actually sit or are registered in that regard. Because remember that the churches are basically non-tax exempt entities in that regard. So Honorable is very right in the sense that when you are sending that money, you will still send your 100 CDs or 200 CDs or whatever, and then you pay the service charge on it. But that is the separate from the amount that you're sending, unless of course you're saying that 100 CDs that you are sending, now you deduct the 1.5% from it and maybe send a lower amount, which then is a different argument altogether. But I just thought I'd throw in that just to clarify the point.
Okay, Dr. Kuma, just quickly on this, going back to the issue about levying, people wrongly. Sam George has said quite a number of things, but tying that to what he says, and I just want to quote him here, what he specifically says for your reaction. He says, everybody is telling them, that is you, government, and the rollout, that your systems are not ready. You haven't done your user acceptability test, compatibility test, stress analysis test, so slow down, but you don't want to listen to sound advice. He says you are running this thing without consulting Parliament or the Communications Committee, and that he knows that technical people in the industry who are supposed to be part of the implementation are raising issues and that they are not getting the responses they want. How true is this?
Well, what I can say is that from March, that since the approval from Parliament was given, GRA and Ministry of Finance have been meeting all stakeholders, including the telcos, the banks, the EMIs, and everybody connected to the implementation of the e-levy. Obviously, in 1 month, the telcos have expressed reservation that technically and engineering-wise, it will be very difficult for them to plug in onto their common platform within 1 month. However, they have shown serious commitment, and let me use this opportunity to thank the telcos and all the stakeholders for their tremendous support so far. And what has been concluded is that we will extend their continuous work to join the common platform up to end of July. But whilst we are taking off in May, they can still continue to charge e-levy on their individual separate platforms because they already operate individually, except that they may not be on the common platform that GRA has created for the collection of the e-levy. And they have an extended time up to July to be able to do that. That notwithstanding, from 1st May, every network on any transactions that they do, they are going to charge the 1.5% after 100 Ghana cedis transaction on any Momo transaction that occurs on their network. So it is just maybe the mode of collection, instead of happening on the common platform, going to happen on the individual networks until we are able to.
We seem to have a bit of a challenge with the connection to Dr. John Kuma. We'll try to rectify that so we can have him back and he can conclude on some of these thoughts. But just continuing with some of what Sam George alleges, he says the GRA has admitted that all transactions done when the system is in place will attract a 1.5% levy, since crucial analysis that authorizes it to operate has not been carried out yet. Suggesting then that regardless of whether you fall into the bracket or not, whether you are sending 50 CDs or whether you are paying to your church, you're going to feel the brunt of the e-levy until certain measures are put in place. Dr. Kuma, you are making a point.
Yes. So the point I was making is that all these concerns are being addressed. Some of them will be very difficult. For instance, when the exemption says that if you do up to 100 Ghana cedis a day,
Okay, we're still having challenges with the connection for Dr. John Kuma. If this persists, maybe we'll just reach him via the phone lines and so we can have a proper conversation on this. But let me come to you, Dr. Echampo. So listening to what the Deputy Finance Minister is saying, he is saying that as it is now, we're at 95% readiness when it comes to rolling out the e-levy, and that in these next 48 hours before the 1st of May, we'll be 100% ready. But that is not exactly what we've heard from some of the telcos, and now Sam George, who says, and to quote him, "I am extremely confident that the Ghana Revenue Authority cannot implement the obnoxious e-levy in the format they have advertised on the 1st of May 2022. It is simply impracticable and untenable at this time. They either postpone start date or revert to phase 1 implementation as earlier advised." Tie that into the fact that the GRA, per something that has been put out there, from dated yesterday, says they are actually facing some constraints and that they will start rolling out with a phase 1. When you put all of that together, does it give you the confidence that we are fully ready to roll this out?
Yeah, that it will be rolled out. Listening very carefully to the GRA statement, to what Honorable Sam George had said, and then just from Honorable John Kuma as well, what is quite clear to me is that something has been done in terms of systems work, in terms of trying to integrate platforms. The challenge remains that some of the telcos have not fully joined to the platform that GRA is building for collecting the e-levy. So what that then means is that in the interim, the amount will still be charged using the existing platform that the telcos already have. And then in the back end, on the back channel, there will be some sort of settlement taking place that then allows the money subsequently to be transferred to the GRA's, account. So, I mean, from a technology point of view, it does indicate to me that something has been done, and at least on the 1st of May, the e-levy will be rolled out one way or the other. What is not too clear at the moment now, or listening to the deputy minister's statement, is that some of the telcos and that system or the systems they are operating is not fully plugged into the new one that the GRA is building and or has built, and that then would take some months. Certainly the minister indicates that we're looking up to kind of like July for that to be done. But that does not mean that the void or the gap that has been created means they cannot collect the e-levy. They can do that using the platform that the telcos already have. The challenge with that then means is that you would have some sort of ad hoc issues or implementation issues where, for example, you may not be able to fully tell who is exempt, who is not, and there would be some backlog.
And that's a major problem that comes up, Dr. Theo Echampo, because as has been intimated by the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, he says that at the rollout, if things remain the way they are, there'll be no discrimination. If you send 20 CDs, 50 CDs, and even not beyond the 100 CDs, it will hit you until certain remedial measures are put in place so that then maybe people will have reversals of their sums of money. But that will be an inconvenience to everybody. That is what he suggests.
Yeah, that's the trade-off that has to be made in here. And the trade-off here then is the government prepared to delay this for a few days or weeks to resolve these teething issues, or they are prepared to roll this out and then find a way of resolving some of these challenges, potentially with exemptions and double payments, you name it, as and when you run the process of the system. But it's very clear, and it's a problem that would have to be resolved one way or the other. I did intimate that the challenge is that the government needs revenue. So one way or the other, I think they're going to roll out the platform or the system and then find a way of dealing with these challenges as and when they come up.
Thank you, Doc. Let me find out from Dr. Kuma whether they are willing to do exactly as you say. So, Dr. Kuma, welcome back. Thank you for joining us via the phone lines now.
Thank you.
Right, if you could just speak up a bit for me, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I will.
Right. So we're talking about your readiness, and you say you are 95% ready. Within the next 48 hours, we'll be 100% ready. Yes. We've spoken about the levy, the 1.5%. And just to clarify, Sam George says that you are not ready to across the board, be able to detect that Asamesi is sending 50 cedis, and so it shouldn't be hit, or Asamesi is sending to church, and so it shouldn't be hit until that church gets a merchant number. Can you clarify for me that as of the 1st of May, when it rolls out, the system will be able to identify those who must, fall under the 1.5% levy category and those who will not? I just want that confirmation.
Okay. There are two answers to that position that Sam George is espousing. One, we are ready. The system will identify anybody who does transactions on his phone or on his telco line up to 100 Ghana cedis. And it doesn't matter the tranches, you did it 20 cedis, 30 cedis, up to 100 Ghana cedis. The system will see it and it will exempt you, just like the networks or the telcos are already operating. The only issue is where an individual, let's call him Sam George, decides to use 2 or 3 of his registered SIM to do a transaction up to 100 Ghana cedis a day. This is where, because we don't have the full integration and the interoperability, the system will not be able to know that the 30 cedis that was initially done was from Sam George, and the other 52 on the Tigo line was from Sam George, and the next 20 cedis was from Sam George. So the cumulative effect of that 100 cedis exemption could not apply because you are doing it on different networks. This is where the full integration will happen in July, and we are going to resolve that problem.
So, hold it for me, Dr. Kumar. So until that full integration happens in July, when Sam George or whoever sends that sum of money, the system will not be able to identify that it is the same Sam George sending from MTN, Vodafone, Airtel, Tigo lines, and so there will be a charge?
Will he? What was the question?
So I'm asking, like you're saying, so until that full integration in July, if Asamesi sends, one person sends from different lines, let's say 3 different telcos, what would happen cumulatively? If it amounts to 100 cedis, will the person be charged?
Yes. Once the system is not able to identify that you are the same person on the 3 different networks, that's one charge. So you are advised to use one network to hit the cumulative level. But it's also something that will go against the GRA as well, because it means that we are not able to, in fact, it's even GRA going to lose more than the person who is doing these transactions on 3 different lines. Because if you did 100 cedis with your MTN and you go and use your Tigo to do another 100 Ghana cedis, the system for now will not be able to track you until we are able to do the full integration and the ID system is replaced with a Ghana card. So these are genuine concerns or lapses that will even affect government more than any individual who is going through that process. So for us, we are ready with the system. If you do it on your network, there's no problem. This challenge will not arise if you are using the same network. And these are initial hitches which, of course, we are ready to go through until the July when we have the full integration.
So you say these are initial hitches, but this is technology here. So if you have these hitches, why not just wait? And especially when we've had that statement from the GRA dated only yesterday. They are saying that, and they are referencing their 4th April letter, which said they were going to roll out. And this is just briefly what the GRA says. Following the Ghana Revenue Authority's assessment of the general readiness of some charging entities to integrate with the e-levy management system, the Commissioner General has decided on a modified phased approach for the implementation of the e-levy from 1st of May 2022. The guidelines for the modified phased approach are attached. It means that even from the standpoint of the GRA, they realize there are problems, which is why they are doing what Sam George suggested. They're not going to have the full rollout. It's going to be a phased approach.
There won't be a perfect system, my brother. You cannot deny a good because you could have gotten a better or best results. But if you could get a good result, why do you wait? Because you are waiting for a better or a best result. You can't do that. Obviously, if you look at the scenarios that we are talking about, it has got a minimal impact on what government is trying to achieve. So we believe, that's why I'm saying that we are 95%. We believe that so far, with all the engagements we have done and all the testings that we have done, we are in a good position to start with what we have. And as we move on, some of these challenges, which is to do with every system that anybody will begin, you have to go through a certain process of firm assurance to be able to overcome some of these challenges. But we have looked at these concerns that have been raised vis-a-vis the bigger picture of what government wants to do and what the telcos and all the stakeholders can do at this time. And we believe that nothing can stop us on the May 1st to roll out. So we'll roll out and then we'll work together to resolve some of these challenges that will come.
We've heard from the Economic Fighters League on this rollout of the e-levy. We also know that there is a move to injunct the process due for the 4th of May. Even the legal elements don't affect it, and you're going to go ahead?
Well, we have not received any court order as a government.
But there's a motion that has been filed by...
Yeah, but the motion is not a court order. If you file an application, you are either going to be refused or granted. So that is not a court order.
Yes, but my point is, it's on the 4th of May that the decision will be made. So why not wait for that day?
Oh, no. I mean, please, you should know that we are already behind schedule for about 3 months already. And as long as there's no legal obstacles at the moment, we want to carry on until a court order tells us not to, or another legal process tells us to halt. For now, if we want to give excuses why we shouldn't start, I believe we can get 1,001. But I can tell you that we have firmly made up our mind. Government is rolling out the e-levy on May 1st, and we are encouraging citizens to accept that this country will be built by us alone. We may receive external support, but it can never replace what we can do for ourselves as citizens of Ghana. Let us all accept our role in this e-levy project and look at how we can contribute to make the processes better and achieve a better development for our country.
Okay. Dr. Kumar, just to wrap the conversation from your end, I just want to clarify two major things, and then I'll go back to Dr. Theo Champo. So I've heard you speak a bit about Sam George when he talks about express pay being asked to build a cloud-based system that is supposedly going to cost us $40 million for the rollout of the e-levy. Is that true or not?
That's a complete falsehood. There's no iota of truth in that. Complete falsehood.
Is express pay playing any role whatsoever as far as the e-levy is concerned?
Well, not as far as I know. And there's no contract or anything to that effect.
Okay, so just to clarify one more time before you take leave of us. So it is safe to assume at this point in time that by May 1, government will be 100% ready for the implementation of the e-levy, GRA and the telcos and others. Again, that the e-levy will not affect zakat or tithes. Again, that the system for implementation will have the ability to identify exempted transfers, apart from the scenario you gave me, where if you're sending from 3 different numbers, it may assume that it is you and cumulatively, take off the e-levy.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. If you transfer money from your wallet on a verified account on your phone to your bank account, the system will see that it's the same person. It will not charge you. If you move money from your bank account into your wallet on your phone, It's a verified account. The system knows it's you, and it will not charge you. So all the exemptions have been taken care of, except the scenario I told you about, which will be corrected very soon.
Dr. Kumar, always refreshing catching up with you.
Thank you very
immensely
much.
grateful
Thank
for your
you.
time. Thank you,
Bye.
sir. All right. And that is Dr. John Kumar, Deputy Finance Minister. Dr. Theo Champon, listening to all the assurances given us by Dr. John Kumar, what is your takeaway? Are we there? Are we there? And he talks about the fact that for some of these situations or scenarios, we may have to get to full integration in July. Like what he mentions, you have different networks, 3 of them. You're transacting on all of them. For now, the system will see that it is you, and cumulatively, it will take off 1.5% until maybe sometime in July where it will be able to distinguish. What's your reaction?
So we're not fully there, but it will be rolled out regardless, and those issues would be resolved within the weeks to come. Certainly, I think by the July deadline, that's possible for full systems integration. But the biggest trade-off or imperative here is the need to collect or generate revenues for running the state machinery in that regard. So I think what is very clear is that that trade-off decision has been made, and the sort of the attempt with the good is not stopping us or stopping the policymakers from going ahead and implementing the e-levy in the current format. I mean, those issues I'm pretty sure would be resolved in the months and in the weeks to come.
What will be your expectations as it rolls out on May the 1st?
I think one of the key things also here is that we need a lot of public education to disabuse the minds of consumers on, some of the negative things that are going around within the media space, and to assure people really that 2 things: the monies that are being collected will be used for the purposes that has been said would be utilized for. That's very, very important in terms of transparency and accountability, and that ultimately ensures that people have confidence in using these Momo services, and that financial inclusion and intermediation doesn't suffer just because of the introduction of this policy. So definitely, I think with the rollout, if there's any suggestion I have to the policymakers, particularly GRA and Ministry of Finance, is the fact that we need a lot more public education and assure citizens that, one, they can still feel safe and use the system, but importantly, there is an accountability mechanism to ensure that those monies would be used for the purposes that they are. And then number 2, if you have any issues whatsoever with the transfer, so for example, double deductions, things like that, there are channels to resolve that for you subsequently. And I think that would go in a long way to ensure or inure consumer confidence.
Okay, Dr. Theo Champon, it's been very interesting hearing your take on this, and we're all excited looking at May the 1st and seeing whether it will roll out first of all and how the rollout will be. We'll be definitely interacting with a lot of Ghanaians to find out how they feel. But thank you so much for joining the conversation, Dr. Theo Champon.
Pleasure is mine. Good morning.
Great. We'd also like to say a very big thank you to Dr. John Kumar, Deputy Finance Minister, who joined us a short while earlier. And on the brief SOE conversation, Professor Ransford Jampo, who also joined us. Stay with us. We'll take a break. But when we return, even as we add our second conversation, we'd like to hear from you. It's happening on May the 1st, per what we've been told. The e-levy is coming. How prepared are you for the e-levy? And how are you going to manage yourself to cope with the e-levy? What's going to be your coping strategy? Do let us know when we return. I'll be hearing from all of you as well. Do stay. So we're asking you for your take on the e-levy, which rolls out on May the 1st. You just heard Dr. John Kumah, Deputy Finance Minister, confirm that it is coming. Whether people are looking forward to it or not, it is hitting on the 1st of May. You also have the other side, Sam George and others say that we are simply not ready. The GRA says it will start with phase 1. But what does this mean for you? How are you going to accommodate the e-levy? You watching me this morning. Do share with us by calling 0302 211 691. Our number this morning is slightly different, so do take note. 0302 211 691 extension 2. So 0302 211 691 extension 2. Talk to us about the e-levy. Talk to us also about the violence that has characterized the NPP's constituency elections. What is your take? We await your calls to hear from you. In the meantime, today, we're also going to be on the ground hearing once more from Kaikwe Parker Wilson. He's heading into some other constituency to find out what will transpire there today. So you can look forward to the latest coming to us as far as these conversations are concerned. We have our first caller from Tamale, Kuma. Kuma, a very good morning to you.
Please, Tikuma.
Sikuma?
Tikuma, Habib Tikuma.
All right. Thank you, Hafiz, for calling. What is your take on these developments?
Yes, please. First of all, I would like to greet you and then all your viewers, and especially those in Tamale.
Right.
Yesterday, looking at the political scene, yes. In fact, it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate. I'm surprised that the same party will treat each other this way, to that extent. What was the problem? Can't you sit down to resolve all those issues? You are going into an election. You want to break the 8. Can this one break the 8? It was unfortunate. It was unfortunate. And also the e-levy. What is just that I've already made up my mind, and I've told all my relatives, yes, all our mobile money, all the monies we have in our mobile Momo accounts, we have taken it off until we realize that this e-levy is not coming on. I am not, if in the family, let's assume that I'm the only person working in my family, and I have to feed, I have to send my grandmother in the village. If I should tell you where my relatives are living, I have to send them money. I have to do this. And it will be charged on it again.
Right.
Why? The government should have sympathy for we the grassroots.
Right.
Those up there, they can pay. But look at this. Most of us are jobless. Most of us. I'm a graduate. And currently, I'm not doing anything. And I have the family to feed. Please, they should try and just stop what is just in this e-levy that they can't just do away with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hafiz. Let's go on to Doma, where Peter is connecting with us. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for calling. Please speak up a bit. What are your concerns on the e-levy and on the violence that has characterized the constituency elections?
I appeal on the president, I appeal on the national security, I appeal on the IGP to call all perpetrators to book. This is about Ghana. Anybody who engages in violence perhaps should be a Ghanaian, should not be treated as a party folk. This is Ghana. Whatever we do is in the interest of the nation, and for that matter, keeping the party well will also in the end make the party better off. And as a matter of fact, with the e-levy, government should really look at it because it is amounting to double taxation.
Right.
There are some of the instances that a lot of experts are saying that you don't tax tithes, you don't tax church offerings. So what of the people who are going to send their offering, their tithes through the mobile money channels or the electronic payment system? How is government dealing with such people? So I think government should look at it so that it will be operated fairly so that people will not be worse off.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's move on to Stanley in Odoko. Stanley, good morning. How prepared are you for the start of the e-levies implementation?
Good morning, and I would like to extend my greetings to you and then extend congratulations to your good work. I would like to say that truly I am not ready for the e-levy because in the first place, I don't understand the whole thing. Why? Because I don't know why I should pay tax for transferring money, let's say, to my mom or to a sibling of mine. I can't categorize it. Is it a direct tax, indirect tax? What form of tax is it? You see? So that is the problem. The government also is saying that we should be assured that we are going to ensure there is accountability in the collection of the money. And that is something that we can't bet on because from time immemorial, there has been other taxes that truly was not really accounted for. So there is no assurance that even this collection, what the money is supposed to be used for, will really be used for it. So that's the problem we have now. We can't really trust the government to utilize the money for whatever purpose. So to me, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I'm very sure that many people like myself will find other means of circumventing the payment of the tax. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Stu, Stanley from Odoko. You can call that number 0302-211-691, extension 2. Are you ready for the e-levy? It's hitting on the 1st of May. We have Vincent in Sogakope. Vincent, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm well, sir. How about you?
Yeah, I think my fellow elephants, what the kind of behavior they are putting up is a shameful one. If you want to break the 8, you don't use such an attitude. And I believe it's a breakdown of leadership from the party hierarchy because they should have anticipated all these things and planned well. It's a shame of MPP. It's a shame, but still there's hope. Now, the e-levy, I think people should get it right. When I hear people say, I have withdrawn my money, I have done this, I have done this. Are you withdrawing the money only for today? Is it only today that you are withdrawing the money? Or you will not do a Momo transaction again? Where we have gotten to in the world now is about technology. Our people must be aware. I'm sending money to my mother, I'm saying this, I'm saying this. You'll be holding the same money, and armed robbers will attack you. So they should think about alternative also. They should think about the alternative. We are behaving as if, yes, we should call for accountability, but the idea that, oh, I won't pay, nobody can run away from Momo. Or maybe then that means you don't want to handle money. You can't run away from Momo or the electronic transactions. That is where the world have gotten to now. And that is how we are secured now in terms of handling money. All my money is on my phone. And when even the phone gets lost, I am safe. Rather than carrying the money and going here and moving there. So those people crying and crying and crying and crying that I'm not going to do Momo or to do electronic transaction again, they are just crying for nothing.
Okay.
We should rather call for accountability from the government and see how our money is being used for. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you too for sharing your thoughts. We have Kumsin in Sunyani. Good morning, Kumsin. Right. What are your thoughts on these two issues?
In what happened yesterday at Okaki.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I'm very disappointed in what happened yesterday at Okaki. In fact, we did not show maturity in politics.
Okay, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, we did not show maturity in politics. What happened yesterday at Okaki? Yeah. How police struggling with delegates was very bad. It doesn't speak well of us. It doesn't speak well of us. So there is a need for us to learn more and stop doing all unnecessary things that were put up yesterday at Okaikwi.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We have Hassan in Tamale as well. Good morning, Hassan.
Right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good morning to you, sir.
Right. What are your takes on these two matters?
My take on the NPP delegate election is that, you see,
All these things they are doing shows that when they come to power, they are only coming to continue the troubles that they are putting us through. They are not bringing anything new. NDC will not bring anything new. You see, this is just speaking of leadership. Leaders, look at the chaotic nature of it. And this thing will translate into the national interest. And in the end, we have leaders who will not serve our interests. As for the e-levy, Ghanaians, we brought it upon ourselves. Because we continue to alternate between two incompetent leadership. That's NPP, NDC. We are so addicted to them, such that we don't want to leave them. And then when they are in opposition, they have all the solutions to our problems. And when they come to power, in fact, advising them is like advising a pregnant woman to cover nakedness during labor. They won't listen. You see, I'm a worker, I'm a public sector worker. At the end of the day, I'm being paid about 2,000 cedis. 400 cedis is taken away from, more than 400 is taken away from that money at the controller. And when the money comes to me and I want to spend it again, I have to pay, when I'm withdrawing it from the bank, you have to deduct another tax from it. When I'm withdrawing it from the Mumu, they will drag another tax from me. Abba, what are you going to kill us? And in the end, you take all sort of allowance and we'll get nothing out of it. Please, they should have nothing now. And in the end, you take all sort of...
All right, so to cap off the conversation today, are people ready for the e-levy? Papani is at the New Plant Station and now connects with us. Papani, what can you report from there? What have the people been telling you? All right, so we'll connect shortly with Papani Ashali.
This is New Plant Station here. I've been talking to some people here. At least we know we have a few days, just between today and tomorrow and Sunday, the e-levy will be in force. I've been speaking to some people here earlier. Some of them were telling me that, well, as a coping mechanism, they started withdrawing their cash from their mobile money wallet and putting it back in their wallets, their physical wallets, I mean. Some mobile vendors here, I'll try to speak to some of them to find out what exactly the trends have been for them, being the ones over here. I'll talk to some of the people here. Let me get closer to this vendor to find out what exactly. Chief, good morning. Madam, good morning. Momo na ekwane zen. See e-levy be about 2 days. Mo for you musica. Kasa. I'm for you musica.
Papa kasa.
Okay, Papa. Bossman. E-levy 2 days. Sunday is coming into force. What's the trend with your Momo business here? Are people coming for their money or people are depositing more?
The teacher say I in the bar for fra no more can and one sem. I'm there 50 as the buy and obi about so in the secret frezo. By free by wiki by the as I change kakra system no omo da su yin kakra. Ba omo ya no ina obi ban so etimi kire omu se enye kese bia sa da so intervals na 20 omu nyi sika no omo te ase wi yes
do you 1.5 calculation mo na mo so omo dia to mu
yeah
okay but ya ti say mi mu say omo pese mo yi omu sika mo ba omo no ka 11 wasem
yeah amanfo bebre kan as omo nche da nti ase ye because that was no omo kire mu omo nti ase nti em za adbet na nkwachiri ndinka omo kire mu yie pa dia nka enkoye bebre sa.
What's the name for saying?
Mensa Kennedy.
Okay, so you just heard from Mensa. He says that for some time now, people came to withdraw their money just when the e-levy bill was passed in Parliament. But it tells me, at least for this week, he's seen that trend has slowed down. Try to talk to some of the people here. Bosu, are you here to withdraw?
Yes.
Are you withdrawing your money because of the e-levy?
Oh, no.
No, not at all.
Not.
But how are you going to be coping? You're going to be paying at least 1.5% on every electronic transfer that at least there's some exemption. But how are you going to be coping with that?
We are in Ghana and that's what has come. So we will just cope with it. We have no choice.
So you're not going to be withdrawing or you're not going to stop using Momo?
Oh, I'm not going to stop. I'll continue transferring and withdrawing my money as usual.
Okay, great. Basu, 11 is not be using no. Chief. No. Okay. So you just heard from some of the patrons here.
And that is Papa Niashale there. Just very quickly, right before we wrap the conversation, some birthday messages to Jaden Enimonyam Otutu Owusu Odame. May God give you wisdom above your age and age perfectly with every good thing that concerns you. Remain blessed, remain unshaken. That is from Same Odame, and then your parents, sister, extended family, and friends. Also, happy birthday to Martha Isiadwa Yali. Wisdom and knowledge is what we ask for you on this special days from your parents, family, and friends. Again, I just want to say thank you to Catherine Gordon of Catherine Garments for granting me this elegant outfit this morning. You can reach out to her on 0277 580050. 0277 580050. She is around the Medina New Road near the Rawlings Circle. But are you ready for the most rib-cracking and thrilling movie yet? Laser and Legacy Productions, producers of Ketia versus Makola. And What Don't You Know, in partnership with Joy Prime, presents The Play. What happens when you invite your girlfriend and your best friend home while your wife is away, and your wife invites a maid to help you in her absence, who then becomes your girlfriend? And your girlfriend becomes the maid, and the maid becomes your best friend's girlfriend. Meanwhile, your best friend is your wife's boyfriend. Confused or thrilled? Then come watch this breathtaking comedy directed by Louis Lamy. It stars Clemento Suarez, NGO, our very own NGO, General Ntatia Atodazi, Becca, Moro, Eno Safo, and Mr. Eventuary, as well as many more. The Play movie premieres on Friday, the 30th of April at the plush Platinum Bay Hotel, Abokobi, in the Greater Accra region. Come and enjoy. Movie in the park over some finger food or savories, popcorn and cocktails on the ultra-modern P3 4K LED screen with pillows and duvets. There will be an after party at the nightclub. Transportation will be provided from the Accra Mall and Legon campus. Tickets are selling at 150 Ghana cedis at the front desk of Joy FM. You can call 0201 292 000 or 0552 505073. For ticket reservations, call 020-129-2000. And that is how we wrap the conversation this morning on the AM show. Always a pleasure. Thank you for joining. Our major bulletins come your way at 10 and at noon. Have a good day.